Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Ashtotar Sata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, and welcome everyone for Sri Caitanya-caritamrta reading with His Holiness Jayādvaita Swami. Maharaj has let me know that he's traveling today, so he'll be listening, but likely not to be participating, or if participating, not very much. So very much looking forward to hearing others read and comment today. I'll start us off. By the way, it's Thursday, January 4th, 2023 in New York. And tonight we'll be starting, as far as I can see, with Sri Caitanya-caritamrta Adi Lila, chapter 7, verse number 112. And if that sounds good, we'll proceed. Otherwise, someone can let me know how wrong I am, and then we'll proceed from there. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. In my chat record, we had gone over text 111 last time. I had posted that verse and we had discussed it, it seems, to some degree. So I'm still thinking we're starting on 112, but thank you very much. So let's get to that verse. Pardon me one moment. I've got multiple windows here. All right. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is speaking to the Mayavadi sannyasis of Benares, and he's explaining the Vedanta Sutra. Tanhara vibhuti deha sabachidakara chid vibhuti achchadi tanre kahe nirakara. Everything about the Supreme Personality of Godhead is spiritual, including his body, opulence, and paraphernalia. Mayavada philosophy, however, covering his spiritual opulence, advocates the theory of impersonalism. Purport: it is stated in the Brahma Samhita, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, has a spiritual body, which is full of knowledge, eternity, and bliss. In this material world, everyone's body is just the opposite: temporary, full of ignorance, and full of misery. Therefore, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is sometimes described as nirakara, this is to indicate that he does not have a material body like us. Mayavadi philosophers do not know how it is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is formless. The Supreme Lord does not have a form like ours, but has a spiritual form. Not knowing this, Mayavadi philosophers simply advocate the one-sided view that the Supreme Godhead, or Brahman, is formless, nirakara. In this connection, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur offers many quotes from the Vedic literature. If one accepts the real or direct meaning of these Vedic statements, one can understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has a spiritual body, Satchidananda Vigraha. In the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad 5.1.1, it is said, Purnam Adha Purnam Idang Purnat Purnam Udachyate. This indicates that the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is spiritual. For even though he expands in many ways, he remains the same. In the Bhagavad Gita 10.8, the Lord says, Ahang sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvang pravartate. I am the origin of all. Everything emanates from me. Mayavadi philosophers materialistically think that if the Supreme Truth expands himself in everything, he must lose his original form. Thus they think that there cannot be any form other than the expansive, gigantic body of the Lord. But the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad confirms, Purnam idang purnat purnam udachyate. Although he expands in many ways, he keeps his original personality. His original spiritual body remains as it is. Similarly, elsewhere it is stated, Vichitra Shakti Purusha Puranaha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original person, Purusha, has multifarious energies. And the Svetasvatara Upanishad declares, Savriksha Kala Kritibihi Paronyo Yasmat Prapanchaha Parivartate Yang Dharmavahang Papanudang Bhagesham. He is the origin of material creation, and it is due to him only that everything changes. He is the protector of religion and annihilator of all sinful activities. He is the master of all opulences. So many of the verses coming up are all from the Shvetashvatara Upanishad. So that is 6:6. Vedaham etang purusham mahantam adityavarnam tamasaha parastat. Now I understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be the greatest of the great. He is effulgent like the sun and is beyond this material world. That's 3:8. Pating patinang paramang parastat. He is the master of all masters, the superior of all superiors. That's 6:7. Mahan Prabhur Vai Purushaha. He is the supreme master and supreme person. 3:12. Parasya Shaktir Vividhaiva Shruyate. We can understand his opulences in different ways. From 6:8. Similarly, in the Rig Veda it is stated, Tad Vishnu Paramang Padang Sada Pashanti Surayaha. Vishnu is the supreme, and those who are actually learned think only of his lotus feet. In the Prashna Upanishad 6:3, it is said, Sa ikshang chakre. He glanced over the material creation. In the Aitareya Upanishad 1:1-1-2, it is said, Sa aikshata. He glanced over the material creation. And Sa imal lokan asrijata. He created this entire material world. Thus, many verses can be quoted from the Upanishads and Vedas, which prove that the Supreme Godhead is not impersonal. In the Katha Upanishad 2:13, it is also said, Nityo nityanam chetanash chetananam eko bahunang yo vidadhati kaman. He is the supreme, eternally conscious person who maintains all other living entities. From all these Vedic references, one can understand that the Absolute Truth is a person and that no one can equal or excel him. Although there are many foolish Mayavadi philosophers who think that they are even greater than Krishna, Krishna is asamordva. No one is equal to or above him. As stated in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad 3:19, Apanipado javano grahita. This verse describes the Absolute Truth as having no legs or hands. Although this is an impersonal description, it does not mean that the Absolute Personality of Godhead has no form. He has a spiritual form that is distinct from the forms of matter. In this verse, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu clarifies this distinction. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Dhyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam. Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitang Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitangscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshvari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's making the distinction between spiritual and material here, making sure that he's, as Prabhupada liked to do with people, changing their frame of reference. Their frame of reference is nirakara, end of sentence. Nirakara, it means no form. So he must have no form. And that must all be all there is to it. So there's no he, because there's no person. It must be just nirak, something. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is making it very clear that all over the place, there are references in the Vedas, in the Upanishads, making it very clear that we're talking about a supreme person. But if you're steeped in this impersonalistic idea, those references will just go right by you. Your paradigm will not let you see them. The most plain of all facts. And if you're not looking for it, you won't see it. That's how paradigms work. We have our framework in mind. This is what reality is, and anything that's outside of that, we just can't deal, as we say. But when they come back and say that ultimately there is no form, ultimately there is no personality, what that really is, if someone comes to that conclusion about the absolute truth, is what they're reporting on is not reality. They're just reporting on the limit of their own ability to describe reality. I've heard this described as a report on their own ignorance, because it's logical. The material world is specifically meant for those of us who are envious of Krishna, want our own scene, our own sphere of activity where we can imagine ourselves to be enjoyers and controllers. So the fact that there is a supreme enjoyer and a supreme controller completely outside of the whole material manifestation, it does not register for the conditioned soul. They're too covered to pick up on that, unless that information comes from that supreme person through the chain of disciplic succession to a receptive ear, which is not the Mayavadi process. Shankaracharya's mission was specifically to bewilder the atheists and keep them bewildered. And so that's the parampara system that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is trying to change their frame of reference on. because all these references where it says nirakara, it, yes, it can mean formless, but the idea of a spiritual form, it doesn't compute to someone who's so steeped in materialism that all they can see is structures of matter. It's very difficult even for contemporary academics or scientists to deal with the experience of structures of matter. Where does that experience come from? It's easy to put a structure of matter between a couple panes of glass under a microscope, but what about the experience of seeing that? That's a whole realm of study that requires a different kind of approach to knowledge. But unless you're ready for that, it won't register. It's not on your radar, as it is said. In one place, I couldn't find exactly where Prabhupada said this about the material body different from the spiritual body, but he was trying to explain to someone that the spiritual body is a form, but not like this. Nope, it's not made of pipes and pumps and tubes. He just generally says in the first paragraph of the purport, in this material world, everyone's body is just the opposite of Satchidananda. It's temporary, it's full of ignorance, and it's full of misery. So we have experience of that, hopefully. At least wise people can see the evils of birth, death, old age, and disease. But there's no machinery involved. And it's hard to materially imagine such a thing, a form that's not made of, fallible, material, temporary stuff. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is making the point that everything about Krishna is spiritual. And then he's defining gradually what spiritual means so that they can, understand that there's a big difference between saying formless and then understanding that beyond material form, there is form again. And we'll go through this whole discussion in some length. So all these quotes from the Upanishads and various Vedas, Prabhupada doesn't clearly say that all of these quotes from the Vedic literature that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur offers are the ones that he mentions, but it could be that. I don't know. I'm looking to see so far, are there any comments or questions on this? So much can be said. Like I said, Maharaj is in transit today, so he's not going to be able to participate, or if so, not very much. Thank you, Priyanka Mataji. Impersonalists also put forward an argument that when Krishna descends to this material world, he accepts a material form. Right. Avajananti mang mudha manushim tanum ashritam, takes shelter of a material form. They interpret it wrong. Here, Mahaprabhu is saying that everything about the Supreme Personality of Godhead is spiritual. Yeah, everything about him. And it's like I was saying, it's very difficult for the materially engrossed mind to imagine such a thing. Well, it's especially difficult to imagine such a thing because we don't want to imagine such a thing. We desperately want, in this material world, to imagine ourselves to be somehow the controller, the enjoyer, or at least a contender to be the controller and the enjoyer. And as long as we're in the running to be controllers and enjoyers, the real controller and enjoyer is going to stay way out of the picture because that's what he does. He lets us have our illusions, and as long as we want them for. Murari Gupta Prabhu says, Hare Krishna, if Krishna is removed from the picture, what is the reason offered for the existence of the material world? Yeah, ultimately, there is no reason. I was having this conversation with Ravindra Swarup Prabhu, and, who is, he studied philosophy of religion in college. He met some high-level Mayavadis, and ultimately, there is no reason. There is no why. There's a point that your reasoning has to stop, and then you reach a point of what? Anirvachaniya. It can't be spoken of as existing or not existing. You have to fall back on word jugglery, because ultimately there is no reason for anything to exist in the Mayavad paradigm. There really is no reason. They can't offer one. I mean, they say that what we have here in the material world is Maya. They can't explain the origin of Maya. If there's only the one supreme Nirakara absolute oneness, well, Maya means there's a two-ness, and there's no explanation for how that two-ness comes from the oneness ultimately. So they have to fall back on very fancy verbal footwork in order to, get their points across. That's the best I can address that. If you have maybe something more to say yourself, I'm sure you've thought about this topic over the years. So, yeah. Yeah, there's just no reason.
That's very clear.
I'm sorry, I missed what you said. I had to turn my volume up a second. Sorry, Prabhu.
I said that's very clear. It reminds me of a joke I heard that someone asked the Zen Buddhist master, why did you strive for enlightenment? His answer was, no reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the end, there is no reason for anything.
Right. But as we'll hear from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna, the actual absolute personality of Godhead, has plenty of reasons for manifesting the material world, as we'll find out. So let's see. Moving on, unless there are more comments or questions, we can go to 113. I don't know who's available to read today. I was going to ask if perhaps Surabhi Kunj Mataji would like to read text 13. I'm sorry, 113. Would that be possible? Davies Child asks or says, we have this form to interact with the material world. Yeah, it's like a very sophisticated virtual reality machine hooked up to the big computer. It is required. All right. So let's see, for text 113. Dana, would you be available to read? Oh, the Davies Child has a follow-up to the previous comment. We have this form to interact with the material world, but what could be the purpose of God's form? Well, his purpose is to enjoy. He's the supreme enjoyer, and that's how he likes to appear. And he is known as Krishna because he's the most attractive person. And whom does he attract? Everyone else. He, in one sense, exists to give pleasure to all of his devotees. I mean, he's self-manifesting, self-existing, but that is his MO, his modus operandi, that he enjoys giving pleasure to his many unlimited parts and parcels. So his form is all attractive so that we can all be attracted. But he doesn't require a form, right? What he desires is happens. That's true. He can do whatever he wants, and what we and that's what the Shastra describes is how he wants it. He can certainly say what reality is, and he can change that around at his will as he likes. And we hear about his pastimes, we hear about his personality, and his exchanges of rasa with his devotees. That's how he likes to behave. That's how he likes to be. It's based on his pleasure of associating with his devotees and his giving unlimited pleasure to his unlimited numbers of devotees. Things could be anyway, but we hear how they are. Thank you. Oh, Priyanka Mataji says, heard somewhere he has innumerable forms for different living entities to perceive him, appreciate his pastimes, even in other species apart from human beings. Sure. Yes, he appears in so many different forms to attract all kinds of living entities. All kinds of living entities. There are a lot of them. And he's out to please everyone. Even in providing the material world, he's trying to provide some arena, some place where we can engage our senses. Even if we don't want him, we don't want to be part of his scene, we can still imagine somehow that we're enjoying because he wants us to be happy. He'll give us anything we want. We want to forget him? Here you go. Forget me. You can forget me as long as you want. Here's all the paraphernalia for your enjoyment. It'll be temporary. There'll be problems. Come back whenever you're ready. Hare Krishna. Jai. So would it be all right, Dana, would you be able to read text 113 in the purport? I need to rest my voice a little bit. Or we may have a paucity of able-voiced participants today. Yeah, I really probably shouldn't go on too much longer, honestly. So if we have no other readers today, then we may have to end early and pick up again.
I'm volunteering for Veen. He's just getting the text.
Oh, cool. Okay, great. Thanks, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Which one are we reading?
Adi Leela 7, 113.
Okay. Mhm. Oh, yes. Okay. Did I start? Chidananda Teho Tarasthan Parivar Tara Kahe Prakrit Satvera Vikar. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is full of spiritual potencies. Therefore, his body, name, fame, and entourage are all spiritual. The Mayavadi philosopher, due to ignorance, say that these are all merely transformations of the material mode of goodness. purport. In the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has classified his energies in two distinct divisions, namely Prakrita and Aprakrita, or Paraprakriti and Aparaprakriti. In the Vishnu Puran, the same distinction is made. The Mayavadi philosophers cannot understand these two prakritis or natures, material and spiritual, but one who is actually intelligent can understand them. Considering the many varieties and activities in material nature, why should the Mayavadi philosophers deny the spiritual varieties of the spiritual world? The Bhagavatam says, Yanyarindaksha vimuktamanina tvayasta bhavada vishuddhodaya. The intelligence of those who think themselves liberated but have no information of the spiritual world is not yet clear. In this verse, the term avishuddha buddhaya refers to unclean intelligence. Due to unclean intelligence or a poor fund of knowledge, the Mayavadi philosophers cannot understand the distinction between material and spiritual varieties. Therefore, they cannot even think of spiritual varieties because they take it for granted that all variety is material. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore explains in this verse that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or the Absolute Truth, has a spiritual body that is distinct from material bodies, and thus his name, abode, entourage, and qualities are all spiritual. The material mode of goodness has nothing to do with spiritual varieties. Mayavadi philosophers, however, cannot clearly understand spiritual varieties. Therefore, they imagine a negation of the material world to be the spiritual world. The material qualities of goodness, passion, and ignorance cannot act in the spiritual world, which is therefore called Nirgun, as clearly indicated in the Bhagavad Gita. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nishtraigunya Bhavarjuna. The material world is a manifestation of the three modes of material nature. But one has to become free from these modes to come to the spiritual world, where their influence is completely absent. Now Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will dissociate Lord Shiva from Mayavad philosophy in the following verse. Okay.
Some comments, Prabhu?
Oh, comment. No, nothing comes to my mind. It's just simple and clear.
I was just thinking how it's interesting that it seems Mayavada thought has no access to spiritual reality somehow or other. That the way that the Shastra is explained by Shankaracharya makes access to any of the accounts in the Shastra that seem to indicate personality in the Supreme, what to speak of Nama, Guna, Rupa, Lila, all those things. It seems that there's just, they're cut off at that point. They can't proceed anything beyond the veil of Brahman that they think is supreme, but it's actually just that, a veil separating them from spiritual reality, which it seems Prabhupada is saying they just have no access to. Is that also your understanding?
I'm sorry, I couldn't focus on that. I was in between something.
I'm sorry. I'm sure you're busy. Okay. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Thank you so much for reading, Prabhu. Oh, go ahead, Murari Gupta, Prabhu.
Hi, Christopher. I
Jai.
was thinking maybe the Brahman is so spectacular compared to the material world that having escaped the suffering of the material world, it's completely satisfying that they don't bother to get into the complicated possibilities of something else. That here is a solution to all the suffering, and we'll just take that. That's fine. We don't need anything more. And so they just stop at that point.
Yeah, in relation to that, I've heard the example given that if you're sick in a hospital bed and you're off, instead of a cure for your disease, you offered that we just kill you. We'll put you out of your misery right now. Is that okay? But a sane person,
some people do go for that.
yeah,
There are situations where people just want to die.
yeah,
They don't see any, even without being in a hospital bed. The future is just so bleak that suicide is increasing around the world. There's depression. But
yeah,
it's just anything is better.
yeah, yeah. But what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Vaishnava Sampradayas are offering is a genuine cure to bring one to a position of eternity, bliss, and knowledge, which certainly goes beyond the confines of a diseased existence, confined to the hospital bed of this material world. But like you say, if you're suffering so much, you just want any out you can get. Thank you for bringing that up. Davies Child raises the question, is Brahman just the energy and Krishna is the intelligence which makes the universe and beings using the energy? Brahman is Krishna in his all-pervading aspect. All of that exists, spiritual, material world, is all resting on Brahman, which is the all-pervading energy of Krishna. And Krishna is the person who is the source of that energy, including things like intelligence, including things like all of his unlimited expansions, both of Vishnu Tattva and all of the other living entities in both material and spiritual worlds who are, as you say, using his energy. So in one sense, there's no difference between Krishna and his energy. You can't separate one from the other. But there is a distinction for our purposes, understanding on a higher level the source of the energy and then the energy that has a source. It's like the sun is the source of the sunlight. There's no sunlight without the sun, but saying sun without there being sunlight isn't saying very much. We're all resting on Krishna's energy. In the material world, we're resting on a combination of material and spiritual energies, all sort of flowing together as one apparent thing, but they're distinct. And all of these verses that we're reading will bring out those distinctions more and more clearly so that we can understand them. Yes, she goes on to say, for me, the sweetness of Krishna's love is missing in Brahman. Yes, that's exactly what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going to go on to describe to these Mayavadi sannyasis, for whom the ultimate goal, they think, is Brahman, negation of material existence, getting out of the hospital bed by dying. But yes, as you say, Krishna is a person, and we can relate to him in very personal ways if we follow the standard process, if we follow the process of knowledge that's given in our Shastra. Yes. Yes. Oh, Jai, thank you very much. Priyanka Mataji says she gives a translation to 10th canto, 2nd chapter, verse 32. Someone may say that aside from devotees who always seek shelter at the Lord's lotus feet, there are those who are not devotees, but who have accepted different processes for attaining salvation. What happens to them? In answer to this question, Lord Brahma and the other demigods said, O lotus-eyed Lord, although non-devotees who accept severe austerities and penances to achieve the highest position may think themselves liberated, their intelligence is impure. They fall down from their position of imagined superiority because they have no regard for your lotus feet. Yes, thank you for that translation. Devi's child asks, may I approach Krishna in another form? I was always attracted to the form of Krishna as a mother. May I do that? If I do that, will Krishna reciprocate? Yeyatamang prapadyante tangstataiva bhajamyaham. However you approach Krishna, he will reciprocate with you. That is a fact. However, we don't typically hear, except that Krishna Mata, Krishna Pita, Krishna Dhanaparan, that Krishna is the mother. That's a way in which we can certainly relate to Krishna. He's everything. He's our mother, he's our father, he's the giver of our very life. But Krishna has unlimited varieties of devotees, and he accepts their devotion from whatever angle they choose to give it. Maybe I'm a mama's boy. Maybe. Hare Krishna. Yeah, that's what Krishna does. He reciprocates with the desires and inclinations of his devotees, of which there are unlimited numbers and varieties. All right. So I'm looking at the next verse here, unless there are more comments and questions here. It's another very long purport. We get into another long discussion by Srila Prabhupada. This next, just a preview of coming attractions. We'll be speaking about Shankaracharya, the incarnation of Lord Shiva. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going to describe his mission and the result of those who are bewildered by Shankaracharya's teachings. So we'll hear that next. It's a quite a long purport, so there's no real time for it now. Let's wait till next week when hopefully we have Maharaj back with us. And thank you, Maharaj, for listening and for volunteering Praveen Krishna to read. And let's end a little early tonight because we're at our ultimate time, relatively speaking. And Sucharudeva Prabhu, would you like to end our closing kirtan? Is that something that you would be able to do? Oh, sorry to hear you're having bad health. Hare Krishna. May you get well soon. Krishna Kanteya Prabhu, can we count on you for another kirtan?
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupad Brahmsa Bhariraj Jagacharya Astotar Sata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Brahmsa Bhariraj Jagacharya Astotar Sata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya, Savior of the World, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Pregnant Sekho Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath, Shamakun Radhakun, Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Sri Vrindavan Dhamma Ki Jai. Sri Mathura Dhamma Ki Jai. Sri Navadvip Dhamma Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki, Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi, Bhakta Devi Ki Jai. Briha Madanga Ki Jai. Samveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Jai Sri Guru and Guranga. Guru Das Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai Krishna Kante Prabhu. Thank you very much. And thank you everyone for being here for Sri Caitanya-caritamrta with His Holiness Jayādvaita Swami. Looking forward to seeing Maharaj again. Hopefully tomorrow. We'll see. Tomorrow's Friday. We'll have Srimad-Bhagavatam class. Sri Caitanya-caritamrta ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jayādvaita Maharaj ki jai. Samaveta Bhaktavrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Thank you everyone for being here. Hare Krishna.